We're going to go ahead and start. I'd love to tell you a little bit about the Miami Open for Business program briefly. This is a program designed to support historically underserved small businesses, included in that definition, nonprofits, to build resilience and generational wealth through asset ownership. This includes the purchase and acquisition of a variety of critical business assets, such as those like technology, equipment, machinery, inventory, vehicles, all the way through to your own physical space. This program was made possible by a $20 million grant from Wells Fargo, with the parameters to focus on asset building for historically underserved entrepreneurs. This program will run through 2024, so we'll have multiple funding cycles, and we're proud to implement this program alongside 4 other U.S. cities. To help the Miami Foundation with lending and support to our for-profit ecosystem, we conducted a competitive request for proposals RFP process to find a community development financial institution, a CDFI, to work with. I'm very proud to be partnering with Partners for Self-Employment on the lending and the for-profit microgrants. And the executive director of that organization, Maria Cotto, has joined us today to tell you a little bit more about the loans. I do just want to let you know that the first couple of minutes of today's presentation will be focused on sharing out core details about the 2 financial products, which may answer many of your questions. Then we will open it up for a Q&A and an open discussion. I caution, if you have a very, very specific question about your particular business or your particular funding request, we do ask that you email it to us. If you are a nonprofit organization looking for a grant, you'll email the Miami Foundation. If you're a for-profit company looking for a micro grant, you will, or any questions about loans, you will email this second email address. If you're having any issues with, for instance, the website or the application interface, please clarify. Whereas if your question is more about the program, please make sure that you specify that. And also, if you are here today and you need today's information in Spanish, si usted requiere la información de hoy en español, indíquelo en el chat, por favor, para que podamos ayudarle en español. Para que sepan, todos los materiales están disponibles en nuestro sitio web en español, pero la información hoy se dará en inglés. So please, again, let us know in the chat if that is something that you require. We're excited that the Open for Business program has 3 different financial offerings available to you and your business. Today, we will be primarily focused on the microgrants for technology and equipment and the asset building loan fund. The microgrants for technology and equipment are providing grants, which is no obligation to repay, funding up to $20,000 for your organization to buy technology, such as hardware and software, as well as machinery, equipment, and other tools that can be deployed in your business. We'll go into a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides about what that constitutes, how it'll be dispersed, what you can use it for, etc. An annual total of approximately $800,000 will be awarded to 40 to 60 organizations each year. In terms of the loan fund, we're excited to offer very low interest financing, anywhere ranging from $5,000 to $100,000 for your organization, including nonprofits, to buy a vehicle, to purchase inventory, renovate your interior space, refinance bad debt that was taken on for asset building, to finance the succession of your business to a new owner, and to convert your business to a cooperative worker-owned enterprise. My colleague Maria will be sharing more detail about the loan fund in just a couple of minutes. With the loan fund annually, we anticipate lending $2 million to anywhere from 30 to 50 organizations. In addition to these 2 offerings, we also have a collective real estate ownership down payment assistance program. We will not be discussing this program today. There are 2 separate info sessions to walk through the details for this funding opportunity. They took place on Tuesday afternoon and earlier this morning. Both of those recordings, as well as detailed funding guidelines for the real estate opportunity, are available on our website if you would like to learn more. Today, however, we will be focusing on the microgrant and the loan fund. One thing we want to call attention to first is that whether your organization is a nonprofit or a for-profit business will determine where you apply for your microgrant. And I'm just curious to get a pulse on the audience today. I've entered a poll. Is your organization today a nonprofit or a for-profit business? And we'll let those responses come in for a couple of minutes. Looks like we have a nice 50-50 split. So if your organization is a nonprofit organization like a 501c3, a church, a government agency, or operating under a fiscal sponsor, you will submit your microgrant application on the Miami Foundation's Open for Business submittable website. I do want to let you know that the submittable website is different from the submittable that you may have applied to for Miami Foundation grants in the past. We'll put that email address, or excuse me, that website address in the chat so you can make sure that you are applying to the correct portal. If your organization is a for-profit business, that is an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, basically an organization that is designed to, create revenue, you will be applying for your technology or equipment microgrant at the Partners for Self-Employment MiamiOFBLoans.org website. So I'm going to end that poll. Thanks for letting us know. We have about 40% nonprofit, 60% for-profit. So just please, if you're interested in a microgrant, take note of where you will apply depending on that opportunity that you're interested in. If, however, you're interested in an asset building loan, regardless of the way that your business is incorporated, you will also apply at MiamiOFBLoans.org. And so again, out of curiosity, I'm going to open up another poll. If I figure out how to do this, is your organization planning to apply for a microgrant, a loan, or both opportunities? And it's all right if you don't know yet. Just curious to get a pulse on the audience. That's great. There's a lot of interest in the microgrant. Now, I'm not so much just yet in the loan, but maybe when you see these fantastic interest rates and what you'll be able to finance with that loan, it just might change your mind. Excellent. So you'll see that this poll is multiple choice. This does mean that you can apply for more than one funding opportunity. In any given funding cycle, you can apply for a microgrant, a loan, or the collective real estate opportunity. If, however, you get funded in any one of these opportunities, you cannot continue to apply for funding within that category. If you get a microgrant this year, you cannot continue to apply for a microgrant so that we can maximize the number of organizations who receive funding. You can, however, continue to apply for a loan or collective real estate funding. If you're not selected in any of these rounds, you again can continue to apply. We will have 2 funding cycles each year for the next 2 years for a total of 5 funding cycles through 2024. You may also wonder whether you can apply for both technology and equipment in a microgrant, or whether you can finance through a loan more than one use case. At this time, to maximize the number of businesses who are able to receive funding through this opportunity, it is not possible to bundle your funding request. So please think about the item that you need most importantly. We'll walk through those in a moment and plan to apply for funding for that. And then lastly, you may wonder whether you should put your application forward for the microgrant first or the loan. I do want to let you know that we have a fixed deadline of Monday, November 7th for that microgrant, whereas we will accept applications for the loan on a rolling basis until the 1st of December to allow time for processing before the end of the year. We, however, discourage you to not wait until the end of the year to apply for that loan, but do make sure that you tackle that microgrant first, given that it has a hard deadline. In order to be eligible for this grant opportunity and the loan, there are some basic eligibility requirements that you must have in place before submitting an application. So for instance, your organization must be a small nonprofit or small business that is located in and serves Miami-Dade County. You must also be owned, or your organization must be led by an individual who hails from at least one of these historically underserved backgrounds. The organization must have been in existence for at least 2 years, operational, and your annual gross revenue in the case of a for-profit, or annual operating budget in the case of a nonprofit, must be $1 million or less to ensure that we are targeting funding to the smallest and often disenfranchised organizations in Miami-Dade County. While these are the core requirements for being eligible to apply for a grant or a loan, there are some additional scoring and review criteria upon which your application will be assessed and reviewed. So it is not necessarily a requirement that you be an employer firm to apply. However, the strength of your application will be reviewed among these dimensions. So first of which, representing historically underserved communities, especially if your organization leadership exhibits more than one of these dimensions that will be taken into account. If your organization provides a service or a good that brings value to your local neighborhood. So for instance, businesses that are specialized in adult entertainment, alcohol and firearms, check cashing, pawn shops, etc., are not intended for these opportunities. Whether you make and sell widgets or you help process visas, whatever your small business good or service is, help us understand how what you do really provides a local benefit to your surrounding community. We will also be assessing whether your organization has strong organizational and financial capacity to be able to deploy the funding that you are requesting as intended. We'll also, especially for the loans, be looking at whether your organization has projected cash flow and revenue to continue operating and to repay that loan if you are applying for a loan. We want to make sure all of your documentation is in order, you're keeping up to date on your business tax receipt with the county, et cetera, et cetera. We also would like to see whether your organization is an employer firm that offers quality job opportunities. Quality jobs include those with at least a living wage, fringe benefits, and those that prioritize employing people who come from either a marginalized background or the adjacent community. While sole proprietorships are eligible to apply for microgrants and loans, it is less likely that they will receive funding as employer firms who retain staff and provide employment opportunities. We'd also like to understand how you will use the grant or loan funding to change the trajectory or growth potential of your organization. Help us understand, will you be opening up a new location? Will you be hiring more staff, be able to reach more customers, produce more revenue? Help us understand, especially if we don't know your industry or your background very well, how this investment will help catalyze change for your business. And lastly, we will also be awarding some additional points during the scoring process for businesses that are in particular historically underserved neighborhoods. It is not required that your organization be in these communities to apply for this opportunity. You are still eligible to apply if your organization is outside of these communities. This simply means that during the scoring and review process, your application will receive a couple of extra points. This list of communities represents areas that have been historically underinvested in and originates from the list of Miami-Dade County's targeted urban areas. I do want to call out that if you are interested in the collective real estate ownership opportunity, your proposal for real estate down payment assistance does need to be in one of these corridors. But at this time, for the microgrant and loan opportunity, you are eligible to apply provided that you meet the other eligibility criteria and are located anywhere in Miami-Dade County. You may wonder if there is some support available to help you getting through your application or preparing your financial documentation and attachments. Do know that our community-based lending Partners for Self-Employment, where you will apply for a microgrant or a loan, does have a team available to help you get your attachments and documentation in order. Starting next year, the Open for Business program will also have dedicated resources in place to assist with this. Until then, we really encourage you to reach out to the variety of small business technical assistance providers who provide no-cost resources and services. There's the Small Business Navigator, Prospera, Branches, Catalyst Miami, just to name a few. I also want to make sure that you have visited our website and taken a look at all of the great resources that we have available. All of these flyers are available in Spanish and Haitian Creole. We have one-page flyers that describe each of the financial products in case you want to advertise them with your colleagues or peers. We also have detailed funding guidelines documents for each of these opportunities, which includes a copy of all the application questions that you can review before you begin your application. We also have an FAQ document that is being updated on a regular basis after these info sessions. And so don't forget to take a look at all of the rich resources on our website, in addition to the info that you'll receive in the session today. Excellent. So I'm about to dive into a little bit more detail about the first financial product, the microgrants for technology and equipment, before I pass it to Maria, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the loan fund. And the microgrant opportunity is a one-year grant, and you can request anywhere as low as $100, a couple $100, all the way through to $20,000 for either technology hardware, technology software, or equipment and machinery. The deadline, as mentioned, is Monday, the 7th, coming up around midnight. So please do not wait until the last minute to get your application in. Take a look at what those questions are and any of the paperwork that will be required. When we refer to technology and equipment, we're referring to the following items. Hardware is typical physical assets that you can touch and see: printers, copy machines, camera machines, video machines, in essence, different types, cash machines, different types of hardware that you can deploy in your business that would make a real big impact in the line of work that you lead. With regard to software, we're really excited to share that this is a grant that you can use to pay for subscriptions and licensing. So for example, QuickBooks, Microsoft Office Suite, Square, Shopify, a CRM, fundraising database. What that exact software or subscription looks like is going to differ based on your business. But in essence, if it is a subscription or a license, or even a software as a service, like a SaaS cloud suite, that is something that you can apply for funding for. Under the equipment and machinery use case, it's pretty broad, just given that there's such a variety of tools and equipment that go into certain industries. And so maybe this is prep and production equipment to make food and beverage, to make costumes, to make sets, set design if you're in the arts and culture sector. Maybe this is a manufacturing tool to help you make more items faster. Is this cleaning equipment, tools? Basically, if it is a hard asset that you need in your business, and it does not have wheels and you can drive it somewhere, we'll talk about that in a minute, you can apply for funding along the equipment and machinery domain. As mentioned, we at this time can only support one use case in your funding request, so think judiciously about what it is in your business that you really need. Is it a set of 20 laptops that will help young children access the internet? Is it a year's worth of your website hosting? Or is it that equipment and machinery that you have been dying to purchase but really haven't had the funds to do so? And pick one of those three categories to apply for funding. I'm going to pause now because I see that there are some questions in the chat, and I am going to pause before we segue to the loan fund. So Shiri would like to ask, what qualifies as one use case? If our biggest need is training, but we have 2 certifications needed, is education one use case? So it's a great question, Shiri. At this time, per the funder guidelines for this program, it's really designed to support asset building and acquisition of assets. We are not able to underwrite kind of training in the sense of personnel or time. So like, are you able to purchase the software and deploy it in your business with this grant? Yes. Per funder guidelines, you are not able to use the micro grant to pay staff or personnel on training. If this does change, we will let you know, but this is, again, something that is in accordance with the funders guidelines. And then William has asked, can consults that deal with the underserved communities apply for the micro grant? This is a great question, William. At this time, we are prioritizing organizations that are led by an individual from a historically underserved background. So for instance, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, somebody from the LGBT community, an individual with disabilities, or a military veteran. So your organization must be led by an individual from one of those historically underserved backgrounds to be eligible to apply. We have answered the question about training. We are a nonprofit theater company. We would be interested in applying for equipment, lighting, and audio. I want to confirm this would work for the equipment category. Yes, Tanya, that's an excellent question. That is a form of equipment that you need to run your shows and your productions. We are not able to enumerate every type of equipment under the sun, just given what you use in your business might look different from, someone in the food and beverage category, but lighting and audio tools and equipment is absolutely something that's eligible. I would consider that a piece of equipment versus hardware. Thinking hardware is more like computer and technology adjacent. But thank you for asking that question. Ruth has asked whether the micro grant would cover purchasing a data app to evolve a current product. There is a potential that an application may count under software. However, developer time, for instance, a software engineer person's time to work on an app would not count, as that is technically, payroll or salary, as opposed to the app product purchasing it itself. Harry has asked, can you repeat what you said about not having wheels? Yeah, in essence, equipment and machinery does not refer to things such as forklifts or airplanes, or in essence, if it has wheels and you can drive it on a road, such as a delivery truck, a passenger van, again, a forklift, it is not a piece of equipment and machinery, and it will be a vehicle that you can receive low interest financing to purchase. Excellent questions, guys. Does packaging count? And I might actually rope in Maria, because you've probably been receiving more questions these. I would think that packaging is actually more of a type of inventory than an equipment or a piece of machinery. Ink for printers, I would believe also is inventory, but printers, yes, you can ask for a whole cadre of printers under the hardware line item, and you can also pay for a CRM, that is a customer client relationship management tool, under the software line item. Do coffee makers, slush machines, coolers, ice making machines count as equipment? Yes, they do. Those are a format of food and beverage prep and production items. Elaine has asked if we can only apply for one category of equipment, such as iPads, but not iPads and a printer scanner software. That's a great question. You can apply for multiple items within an overarching category, but you cannot ask for hardware, software, and equipment within your funding request. Maria, would you like to chime in? I know that you've been receiving a lot of these questions as well, and any kind of guidance, heuristics that you can provide that will help folks think about what's eligible and ineligible for funding.
So I think most of this is going to get cleared up once we hit the loan part of this presentation. So let's hold off for a second. Let's get through the loan part, and then we will, I think that's going to answer most of these questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I see a question, are there funding caps based on the number of employees? No, rather than using an employee-based small business cap definition, we've used an annual revenue definition. So you may not exceed $1 million in annual revenue. Noor has asked if the application will be open when we're done with the webinar. The application actually is already open. It opened on Thursday, October 6th, and will remain open through the end of the month, through November 7th. We also wanted to use this opportunity to give you a preview of the narrative questions that you will have to complete as part of your application. These are available in the funding guidelines document, and we urge you to begin working on your request, on your proposal, before you get to the application portal, to avoid losing any of your progress. At the left is the questions that we ask of our nonprofit applicants: how you will use these funds, the impacts associated with these, achieving or receiving the grant, a future trajectory and vision for how your organization will benefit or grow from this opportunity, as well as the societal benefits that you provide through your line of work. Very similar questions are being asked on the right-hand side. For-profit applicants, they'll just look slightly different. We want to better understand your business, your service model, your target market. Under purpose, we want to understand how this asset, what it is, and how it will transform your business. And in the third section, better understanding beyond how the asset will benefit your business, how it might benefit the community at large, along a variety of dimensions. There's some basic documentation your organization will need to provide based on the type of organization it is. Copies of some of these templates and can be found on the resources page of the MiamiOFBLoans.org website. If you do have your own financial projections, or you have your own income tax return, those items, may be uploaded, but we also provide templates to complete in the event that you do not already have copies of these documents on hand. Before we segue to the loan fund, which Maria will walk through in more detail, I've received some questions about, would the application be open next year? Yes, it will. This is just the first of 5 funding cycles that will occur through 2024. The same amount of money will be administered each year through the end of 2024. So that's why we encourage you to apply early and apply often, unless you are funded, in which case you will not be eligible to apply again. Alejandro has asked whether an electric generator accounts. Running public projects in public venues, an electric generator would constitute a piece of equipment and machinery. David has asked whether manufacturing costs required for the initial product launch. You might have to give a little bit more specificity there, David, if you're talking about a virtual product, like an app product. I don't immediately have an answer for you, so please provide more context or email us offline. And Noor has asked where to find the application. You can, depending on whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit business, you can apply at miamiofbloans.org or at the Miami Foundation submittable website. To find out all of the application links on our website on miamifoundation.org/Miami Open for Business. With all that said, keep the questions coming in the chat. I want to make sure we have ample time to walk through the asset building loans for entrepreneurs. And so Maria Cotto, my colleague, will share with you this product offering.
Thank you, Brittany. And for the individual asking where to apply, I just dropped a link to the application website in the chat, or at least I'm attempting to. There we go. So you guys can go and take a look at the application site. Before we get started, just give me 1 second. I'm going to address those individuals who are needing some Spanish or needing Spanish technical assistance. Para las personas que necesitan esta asistencia en español, por favor les pido que me manden su teléfono en un mensaje privado y después de esta sesión nos comunicaremos con ustedes. All right, now back to regularly scheduled programming. So I'm going to go over what I'm going to go over the actual loan product, and included in my part of this, we'll go over what's allowable as an expense under the loan product. So I think that we're going to be able to answer several of the questions in the chat through just going through the next part of this. So loans are going to be anywhere between $5,000 on a low end to $100,000 at the cap. The repayment terms for these loans are going to be between 1 year and 5 years, and that's going to be dependent on the asset that you purchase. Interest rate is fixed for for-profit small businesses at 3%, and fixed for nonprofit borrowers at 0%. Applications for the loan product are going to be accepted through December 1st. So you heard Brittany mention November 7th several times. That's for the grant application. For the loan application, we're going to go through December 1st. So if your intention is to apply for both of them, please concentrate first on the grant application. Then you'll have about 3 weeks to complete the loan application. But you are only going to get funded under one of those options. For the most part, we're going to do everything that we can to disperse loans directly to a seller on behalf of the borrower. So let's assume that you're going to purchase a tractor. For all intents and purposes, we'll make payment directly to the tractor supplier rather than make payment to the borrower. If for any reason the vendor is unable or unwilling to accept a third-party payment, then what we would do is we would disperse to you as the borrower, give you a specific number of days in order to prove that you've acquired the asset. And again, these loans are for for-profits and nonprofits. So once you go to the website and you go under applications, you're going to see that the application is different. Make sure that you're applying under the correct category, that you pick either for-profit or nonprofit, please. All right, so this is, I think, where we're going to be able to clarify some of these questions. So there are some very specific allowable purposes for use on these loans. The first is a vehicle purchase. So this would be vans, trucks, buses. As Brittany said, anything with wheels that's going to get you or a group of individuals from A to B. The kicker here is that this business must be used exclusively for commercial purposes. So if you're running a daycare, please don't ask us to buy you a Ferrari, because we're not doing that. You're not going to be able to get all those kids in there. So make sure that the vehicle that you are applying for makes sense for the industry that you're applying for. And if you have multiple businesses, which is a question or an issue that's come up several times throughout this application process, the vehicle that you are applying for, the purpose and the proceeds must be specifically for the actual business that you're applying for. Another allowable expense is remodeling and renovation. This could be remodeling and renovation of a space that is owned by the business or a space that is leased by the business. Here, if you're actually doing remodeling of a space that you are leasing, one of the main things that you're going to want to look at is that you have access to the space, that your lease is extended through the life of the loan, right? So for most remodeling projects, we can amortize anywhere between 3 and 5 years, depending on, you know, what type of renovation you're doing. Is it construction? Is it if it's, you know, simple paint and that sort of thing? So depending on what it is, whatever the life of the loan is, you must have access to that space. So if you're currently on a month-to-month lease and you want to renovate a space, then you're going to want to start negotiating with your landlord now to ensure that you're going to have access to that space for the life of the loan. Another allowable asset is inventory. So this is where one of the questions I think is going to fall in here. So this is finance of bulk goods, right? So this isn't necessarily 1 or 2 pieces for a small clothing boutique. This is raw textiles, right? Raw materials, primarily used to fulfill larger orders or contracts. So contracts and orders that your business, the way that it exists today, would not be able to fulfill. So that's what we're talking about here with inventory. We can also use the proceeds of this loan to refinance you out of some predatory debt. So this is debt that the business took on to purchase an asset. That asset must still be in the possession of the business and still be in usable condition for us to be able to finance you out of this predatory debt. But for small businesses that have fallen into that cycle of those very large 28% loan interest rates that are based on sales that, you know, you get those cold calls for on a regular basis, this is a really good way to finance yourself out of that debt. This loan is a steady 3% interest rate, and a lot of those predatory loans, their interest rates are higher in the 20s. So this is a good opportunity to get you out of that debt, assuming, of course, that you used it to buy an asset and that asset is still in your possession and usable and will be usable for the life of the loan. Another fund purpose is succession planning. So this is where the business starts to go through the process of passing from, you know, one generation to another. So this is a business that's going to stay within the family, possibly parents handing the business down to adult children, individuals handing their business down to, you know, nephew, niece, or some combination thereof. So this is the transfer of businesses to stay within the family. So expenses that are related to this succession financing are also allowed here under this loan, although we would have to look at them, we'll look at them on a case-by-case basis. The cooperative ownership conversion is the last of the allowable purpose, and this is where, different than succession planning, which is basically an individual passing it down to a family member, we're looking at small businesses that will sell their business or transfer their business to a cooperative of their employees. So this is where a small business owner may be looking at their business as a retirement plan and looking to bring on new owners that would consist of a group of their current employees. And the expenses related to that process, many of them would be considered allowable under this purpose. So application questions. So in addition to some basic, of course, information that you will see on any loan application, you know, the basics, information on each of the business owners, information on the business, that sort of thing, we're really looking at understanding your business and the impact of your business, not only on yourself, on your employees and team, but also on the community at large. So to that end, we're going to ask you some basic questions. These are narrative questions. We encourage you to kind of think them through and answer them before you go into the loan application. But if you do go into the loan application and get to this point, you can save and continue later, and you'll receive a link in your email that will allow you to link back to the application so you can finish it later. But those questions, the first of which is your background. So here we're looking to understand your business specifically. We're looking to understand the product and service that you're selling or providing. We're interested in understanding your target market. We're interested in understanding how your target market is going to benefit from benefits from the product or service. And then we're also looking to understand your current staff and team. And when we consider staff and team, we're also looking at consultants in this situation. And then we want to know if you're going to need, in order to execute it, take this money, invest it in your business, and move your business from where it is now to where you want it to be. If you're going to need to add human capital in order to do that, so more employees, we're going to want to know what your plan to hire is. Under the purpose question, we're going to ask you to describe how you're investing the funds. So in addition to just outlining what it is that you're going to buy, which is one of the things that we're going to ask you to do in a proposed use of fund document, here we want to truly understand how you're going to invest these funds. So we want a description of the asset. Remember, those of us that are reviewing these applications do not work in your industry for the most part, and maybe have very little, if any, experience in the industry that you may be in. So we're going to need you to help us out here and help us understand what this asset is, how it's usable in your business, how it's going to increase and enhance your business, and then what your plan is for meeting that increased demand. So are you going to bring in additional customers as a result of this widget maker? If you are, then help us understand how your business is going to be able to serve those customers. Under social impact, we're looking at asking you to describe to us what the impacts are of this asset that you're purchasing beyond the actual acquisition of the asset. So we know that you want to buy this asset. We know that you need this van for your business. But help us understand what the impact is to your business beyond having it, right? So now you've gone out and bought this van. Now what? Does that mean that you're going to hire new individuals to drive the van? Does that mean that you're going to be able to service additional individuals that you weren't able to service before? Are people that were not able to access your business going to be able to access it now that you've got this van and can go to them, or you can pick them up? Are there any climate implications? That sort of information is what we're looking on here. So here we're looking to understand, you've got the asset, now what, right? What's next? And then here's some documentation that we're asking for. There's, of course, additional questions. There's a series of questions. We're going to ask you to fill out all of that information for all of the business owners. But just to kind of give you the highlights, for personal, we're asking for personal information because all loans are personally guaranteed. So we are going into this in good faith, assuming that your business is going to expand and is going to thrive and will be able to make these loan payments. In the event that some unforeseen circumstances happen and you are unable, or your business is unable to proceed with the loan, then those individuals who own the business are personally responsible for the loan. So here we're going to ask you for ID, some type of picture ID issued by the state of Florida, a social security card or similar identifying document in the US, copy of your personal financial statement, and there is a template that you're going to be able to download and fill out on the website. We're going to ask for copies of personal income tax returns, and that is for each individual owner of the business. And then a form 4506T authorizing us to access directly from the IRS those income tax returns, should we need to. For the business, we're going to be asking each business to produce a proposed use of funds with vendor estimates. We're asking for this proposed use of fund document with the vendor estimates because, as we indicated earlier, we are going to be, in whenever possible, paying directly to the vendors on your behalf. We're going to be looking at your actual cash flow year to date. So we're going to be looking at how much business you're doing currently. We're going to look at a balance sheet or financial statement. We're going to look at bank statements for your business. And if there's something that you want us to see beyond the bank statement, so I know a lot of businesses take Square, they take Cash App, other forms of payment. If a true financial picture of your business cannot be seen through your business bank statements, we encourage you to supply those additional statements. So if Cash App or some other financial statement is going to help us better understand the cash flow of your business, we're going to ask you to submit that as well. We're of course going to ask you to submit proof of business address. That's in the form of some type of utility bill dated within the last 30 days in the name of your business. Copy of your financial projections. In the event that you don't have, ready set financial projections, then there's a template that's going to be made available to you, or that is made available to you on the website under the resources section that you can fill out. We're going to be looking at your business tax returns. If your business tax returns are filed on a Schedule C of your personal tax return, of course, we're going to take it from there. But in the event that you've got an LLC or a corporation and you're doing separate tax returns, we're going to ask you for those. We are going to ask you for your Miami-Dade County tax license. This is to ensure that you're doing business in Miami-Dade County and doing so legally. There is a current employee roster also listed on the website under the resource section. Here we're asking you to list your current employees. We're also looking at some information as to the quality of the jobs that you currently have. Do those individuals have paid time off? Do they have on-the-job training? What is their current salary rate, etc.? But we're toward the bottom of that document. We're also asking you to let us know what proposed jobs you think you're going to open over the next 12 months. And then, of course, we're going to ask you to do a Form 4506T here as well that will allow us to draw these tax returns directly from the IRS should we need to. And we're almost to the end here, and then we'll get to the questions that are coming in on the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Maria. You want to take it?
No, I was just going to say, this is the, we want you to take a look at these items. There's some items here that we're going to ask you to, we want you to take note of, such as the proceeds can only be used to cover the asset itself. Loans cannot be used for technology or machinery. If that's what you need, we're going to encourage you to do the grant. So just please take a look at this. And then we'll move on to questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. Really, really appreciate you all are just such experts in the lending space. You've done so much work to kind of make this program as accessible as possible, and really appreciate everything you do. I can recap a few of the questions that came in the chat. I did try to answer them as they were coming in, but question for you, how does being a pre-revenue startup affect eligibility? We do know that the organizations must have been in operation for at least 2 years, but what if an organization is still pre-revenue despite being operational for at least 2 years?
So the organization may be pre-revenue, but the organization has probably taken on some debt, even if it is from the owners. So we're still going to ask you to complete your current financial statement, your projections. And then we're going to look at the owner's tax returns to see how the owner has been investing into that business. So being pre-revenue doesn't necessarily preclude you from borrowing, but we would have to look at the entire picture and see how the business, basically what we need to do is we need to prove that the business is operational. You may be pre-revenue, but are you operational? And that's what we're looking at.
That's a helpful distinction. Thank you, Maria. And also somebody wanted to ask whether there's a minimum credit score for the personal loan. And I just wanted to share that we're very excited to not have instituted a minimum credit score for this opportunity, but as evidenced by all the financial documentation that will be requested of your business, we will still be assessing your organization's ability to repay. Is there anything you want to add to that, Maria?
No, yes, I should say. So while there is no minimum credit score, we work on a point system, right? So we are going to ask you to be as explicit as you possibly can when you're answering the questions. Make sure that you are as clear as you can be with those narrative questions, because each of those questions is going to give you a certain number of points. Credit gives you a certain number of points. So we want you to be, to make sure that you can access all of the points that you've got coming to you. So while there is no minimum credit score, we are going to be pulling credit, and it will play into the point system, but so will a lot of other things. So we just want you to give us as much information as you can on those questions.
Yeah, great answer, Maria. And now Claudia in the chat and the Q&A would like to understand what type of documentation a nonprofit has to provide for the loan that differs from the for-profit company.
So for nonprofits, because nonprofits don't have an actual owner, nonprofits are not going to provide us all of this personal social security cards, personal financial statements, personal income tax returns, because they're just, they're incapable of doing that. They don't have an owner. We will ask for picture ID of the executive and or the board member that's going to be signing off on the loan, and that's for identity purposes, right? We want to be able to check back to make sure that the individual taking on the debt is actually able to, the organization has, that they're an officer of the organization, and the organization has authorized them to take on that debt. So the only personal information that we're going to ask for is that ID of the signers. We'll also ask for, and this will be part of like a closing document, we will ask the organization to provide a document from the board, so some type of resolution allowing the signers to indebt the organization, but there will be no other personal guarantee on those loans. Also, instead of balance sheet, we will take a financial statement, either audited or unaudited, from the organization.
And then just in terms of the financial projections and the tax return, do you want to talk about that for a second for Claudia?
Sure. So with financial projections, here we know that nonprofits are not like for-profits where they can project increased in revenues the same way that a for-profit business selling a product or services. So here we're going to be looking at who your primary funders are, and who your like we'll look at like your top 5 funders. We'll look at your, of course, your corporate tax returns, your 990s over the years. We'll see how your funders kind of match up with those 990s to determine the probability of you being able to continue to access those funders or similar type funders, and how that will turn around and allow us to be paid. Also, if the asset that you're looking to purchase is an asset that's like going to be reimbursable over a period of time from a funder, you're going to want to let us know that, because then of course we can design repayment terms around those other contracts.
Great response, Maria. We do have a question in the chat. Just as a note for some attendees, you may not be able to see all of the questions all the time in the chat. Sometimes they're just sent to the host. Somebody has asked to re-explain what it means, what constitutes one use case within the microgrant. So I would like to just share this slide again. Within the context of the microgrant, you can apply for both a microgrant and a loan. You can apply for more than one funding product. But when it comes time to apply, you will need to select within one of these 3 categories what you're going to request funding for. So it will not be possible for you to request funding for both hardware and software, or both software and equipment. You need to prioritize what of these items is most important for your business and select and enumerate within one of the 3 categories what you're requesting funding for. Similarly, for the loan fund, you cannot request a loan and bundle together both a vehicle for your business and remodeling the interior. You need to select one of these 6 use cases for a funding request. David has provided some more context about the pre-revenue. I will punt that question to Maria if you have a second to read it. Mario was asked, if approved for the microgrant, when can we expect funding? Great question, Mario. None of the microgrant funding will be dispersed until after the deadline passes, so that we have an opportunity to review all of the proposals. If you're a for-profit business, it is likely you may see your funding by the end of the year. If you are a nonprofit organization, your grant will begin on January 1st, and you will receive your microgrant funds at the beginning of 2023.
So David, in reviewing the question that you asked, it looks like your business hasn't been operational for a couple of years. It looks like you've been stalled for like 2 years from what I'm reading here. And you haven't actually launched. So there's been like no activity. I'm happy to have a further conversation around specifics and, you know, how creative we can be. But if your business is not operational at this time, then I don't foresee you qualifying for a loan.
Thank you all for these really great questions. I want to call attention to the time. We have about 7 minutes left in our time that we've earmarked for today. If you have any other questions, can you please put in the chat or in the Q&A? Nirva has asked a question about the propective. Maybe you're referring to the projections, the financial projections. There is a copy of a template on the website, on the Miami OFB Loans website. But if you need further assistance, you can also make a 15-minute technical assistance appointment with the Miami OFB team.
And since Brittany mentioned that, let me just say that on the actual website, once you go in, you visit the website, you decide what product you want to apply for, you go in, you pre-screen, you qualify. There's a few ways to contact us. You'll notice at the bottom there's a phone number. Please call that number if you have a burning need to talk to a human. If somebody does not answer the phone, please leave a message. There's also a contact us link where you can send us a message, and we're happy to respond to those messages. Or there's also an email address listed on the site. You can email us directly there as well. But emailing us and doing the contact us is actually pretty much the same thing. Same individuals are going to take a look at it. Same individuals are going to respond to you. Responses happen within 24 hours usually, unless of course you submitted your question at 6 o'clock on Friday, then you're not going to get responded to till sometime on Monday.
Great. Thanks for clarifying, Maria. And the same goes for our inbox at the Miami Foundation. Please do be patient. If you have an inquiry, we may forward your inquiry if you're a for-profit business to the Miami OFB Loans website. So Mario has asked if there a way to update or increase the originally requested amount on the micro loan. I missed some invoices. So that may either be the micro grant or the loan. I do believe if you request, you can have your application reopened and provide some updates before the funding deadline on November 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. Just reach out to us, send us an email or a personal message through the site, and somebody will contact you, either myself or Adriana. We will take what additional information you may need to provide to us, and we'll make the adjustments.
Great. And there's another question in the chat with regard to when you will find out if you were approved. So again, if you're applying for a micro grant and you are a for-profit business, after the November deadline, you will find out by the end of the year, and it's possible that your payment may be dispersed by then. If you are a nonprofit organization interested in a micro grant, you may find out. However, your grant period and your payment will not be dispersed until after January 1st. Oh, sorry, Maria, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, Nerva put in another question about what type of business do we finance? And basically any type of business that is not considered a nuisance business. So when you pre-qualify, there's 4 pre-qualifying questions. The 4th pre-qualifying questions outlines the actual types of businesses that are disallowed. So if you're not considered one of those disallowed businesses, then you're good to go. And if your question was more around the type of home-based, storefront, online, those are also all eligible. So if that was what your question was around.
Great. We have about 3 minutes left. Please share your questions in the chat or the Q&A box. If not, you can reach us directly via email. Any for-profit businesses, small businesses should contact the Miami OFB Loans website. If you are a nonprofit and you're interested in this opportunity, please contact us at the Miami Foundation website. Email address. Thank you everyone for attending. We're really excited about this opportunity. The application for the microgrant closes again on November 7th, but we will offer these funding cycles repeatedly for the next 2 years.
Absolutely. And if anybody gets stuck on their application, we would like you to not be discouraged. Make sure that you reach out to us through either the website, the phone number, so that we can help you through the process. We are more than happy to do that in Spanish, English, or Creole. So please don't be discouraged if you get held up somewhere.
Awesome. There's still some more questions coming in, so I will answer them. Sandra asked if we have to report on these expenses. That's an excellent question. Yes, you will be expected to report on how the asset was used, purchased, and also the impacts that it had on your business. We will be following up to ask about whether there was any changes in revenue or sales, changes in staffing, etc., from our research and data collection partner. In most cases, the asset will be purchased directly for you from Partners for Self-Employment, in which case we'll just be following up to learn about the economic impacts on your business about the asset. So that's an excellent question. Andre asked what would be considered a nuisance business. Andre, I did enter into the chat the list of unallowed business industries such as adult entertainment, bail bonds, etc. Please take a look at that full list. It's just also available in the pre-qualification page of the Miami OFB Loans website. In essence, we are industry agnostic, so you can represent any type of small business with the exception of those businesses that were placed earlier in the chat. Great. We have time for about one last question before we formally end the webinar. This webinar has been recorded. We will upload it along with the other recordings. We will also include a copy of the slides. We will email those out to all registrants, and we've also placed a copy of the slides in the chat. Gladys has asked if you can define use case. That basically means a category or a purpose for each of the items of funding. So you can only apply for one category within the loan or one category within the micro grant. Diana has asked, can we apply if we want to open a second location? It's a great question, Diana. That will depend on what you're asking for funding for. If you would like to remodel a new location, you can take out a remodeling loan for that. However, this is not a general working capital loan. You do need to provide a little bit more specificity and detail about what you will be using with the loan. If you have any specific questions or want to chat about your specific business in more detail, we highly encourage you to reach out so we can give you some more specialized advice and guidance based on your position. It is officially 5 o'clock. I want to appreciate you all for being here. Thank you, Maria, in particular. You bring such great wisdom to this role. I'm so happy to be doing this work with you. We look forward to seeing your application this cycle and in cycles to come. Thank you all.
Thank you.